I had trouble getting up this morning. During the night, my wife had put 3 paving slabs on top of my duvet. As I lay there, I remember Grandad telling me not to stand in the way of progress as he dragged me off the railway tracks at Watford Gap. He was always so well groomed, but then he had no excuse not to be, what with living with that stable lad for so long. He was in the army for 10 years before he realised he'd never signed up, so he came home. Gran said it was dementia, but we told her it was the catering corps. "Let's have a look through the round window," she said, on the ferry to Boulogne. She always told me flattery gets you nowhere, but it got me to Leamington Spa for £1 when I told the bus driver he had nice eyes. "You mind your P's and Q's, young man," he said, as I attempted to spell out quadruped on the back of a seat with magnetic letters. "Where's the point to all this?" shouted Uncle Reg as he opened his gift of a make-your-own spear kit. He always referred to the family as the Knights of the Round Table, even though we'd only ever had a rectangular breakfast bench. A canoe and a toothpick, that's the long and the short of it. Good night, Sir Lawrence. Time for bid. When I began to show an aptitude for tennis whilst at junior school, my mum spent every last penny of her savings on a brand new racket. Unfortunately, this left no money over for accessories, so every evening prior to a match, my big Uncle Pete would come round and administer Chinese burns for 20 minutes, which gave the appearance that I was wearing sweatbands. Mary had a little lump, but the rest of her was smooth. If you put your hand near it, Mary'd always move. I thought her and her growth were great. I thought our love was real, until she messed with Alan West and let him have a feel. Sometimes you get that unspeakable something between you and someone else, but you can't quite put your finger on it. I never saw much of my dad. He was highly successful in the world of camouflage. This one's called The Nazi Babies Lucky Likey Club, which I wrote when a lady who we met at the NCT postnatal classes popped round with her little baby that looked the spit of Hermann Göring. Tommy looked like Himmler. Ruby was the spit of Hess. Gabby did a splendid Göring when we put her in her starched grey dress. Sadie does a funny little Hitler with a little square of jet black card. All us parents get together Wednesdays and we march them round the yard. Ron and Tracy popped round with their little Goebbels Brucey and took them all to see a Disney film. And the social services came round on Monday, and now none of us have children anymore. I've got you under my skin. If only you hadn't been pissing around when I was putting that pond liner in. This one's called The Pitfalls of Falling Out of Love with a Medieval Princess. I showered her with kisses, I showered her with love. I showered her with sun-filled waves with me hand in a chainmail glove. I showered her with all I had till I had nothing left to shower, and she showered me with boiling oil from a room above the drawbridge. You know what makes me really sick? Food poisoning and drinking bleach. I once went out with a girl called Nuala Cartwright, whose mum was very sweet, but whose dad I never seemed to meet. And when some time had passed, I decided to ask about his whereabouts, and she told me he was a dustman. And I said, it's no wonder I'd never met him if he was that tiny, and maybe he was asleep inside the Hoover bag. And she said, actually, it's because he was in prison for attempted murder. Billie Jean, she's not my lover. She's just a girl who won 6 consecutive Wimbledon women's singles titles between 1969 and 1975. Rachel Smedley once did a medley of ABBA songs in school assembly, after which the music teacher, Mr. Robertson, was overheard to say, "You are my dancing queen," a slightly inappropriate thing for a teacher to make to a young female pupil in front of her parents, in particular as she'd been born with dislocated shins. I'm sat in a tub of diesel with someone's gorgeous daughter, hosing down a couple of mates with lukewarm soapy water. When you're in love with a beautiful woman, you've got to wash your friends. When I was 11, my dad ran off with Edith Coppell from number 57, whose acquaintance he'd made when she was recommended by the local business community for her exceptional trouser alteration skills. Alas, this left me and my mother in dire financial straits, and so when we found an advert in the local press asking for host families for overseas students, we duly applied. We were successful and awaited the arrival of a young lady from Catalonia. However, after just 3 days, and owing to our lack of understanding any Spanish whatsoever and her very poor grasp of English, Ula sadly passed away in our spare room. It was the summer of 1978, and thankfully our payment wasn't affected. This poem is called Tengo alergia a nueces, which translated means I have a nut allergy. Leather belts and Rioja traded for smiles. Cul-de-sac comforts, hands across the miles. Lay down your knapsack, we'll bring out some flapjack. Never think twice about an almond slice, partial to a bakewell at any price. Who's that pecan pie for? Me granny's got a recipe to die for. The diary entry of a Stone Age woodworm. September the 21st, the Stone Age. Absolutely bloody starving. My old man's a dustman. He wears a dustman's cap. He wears long chenille evening skirts and crop tops bought from Gap. He wears acrylic bracelets and a wig like Jackie O. He frequently gets a good kicking back at the depot. This one's called A Week in the Diary of a Popular Religious Figure. Monday, healed some cripples and gave a blind man his sight back. Not bad for a Monday, really. Tuesday, turned water into wine and made an Airfix model of a Messerschmitt ME109E. Used the second paint option with camouflage. Way. Wednesday, transformed some bread into even more bread and coaxed some friendly herrings to stand next to a long line of Superdrug purse-sized mirrors. Wild stuff impressed the punters. Thursday, bit of a dull one really, forgave some sinners about 4 o'clock. Friday, went to see the Velvet Underground at the Galilee Hippodrome. Got arrested by some Romans after 2 verses of Sweet Jane. Bollocks. Saturday, got nailed to a large bit of timber. Support band was shit, by the way. It rained and some bastard stuck a spear in me. Sunday, everything back to normal. Woke up in a sealed cave but got out through the skylight. Dad bought me a comic. Can't wait for next week. As I was served my fruit scone with jam and cream in the old Devon tea shop, I smiled at the elderly waitress and wondered if she realised that their corporate logo was in the same font as Motorhead. To cut a long story short, a bloke gets shipwrecked, then he gets saved. Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. This is called a skipping rhyme for my mate Pedro's dad, who drives a mobility scooter in which he picks up roadkill. He's got a PhD, he's got a wart, he slipped on a paving slab by the tennis court. He broke his hip and arm, suffered a thrombosis. He's got a cataract and osteoporosis. He's got a special car, it's got a basket. He scraped a badger up by the cattle market. Bought home a water vole, bought home a stoat. He showed my 2-year-old something in his coat. 1, 2, 3, 4, we don't go round anymore. I went to a new club the other night for people who mainly work in wood. It was called Tongue and Groove. The guy on the dance floor said, "Do you want a joint?" I said, "Go on then." He passed me a dovetail. I bought this stick man off a mate the other day. He said, "If you want any more, just let me know." I said, "Where did you get them from?" He said, "They fell off the back of a lorry." This is called Babs Gilhooly. The woman in the pale plum raincoat stands at the same bus stop on the same street at the same time every day. And I look at the woman in the same pale plum raincoat at the same bus stop at the same time on the same street every day. And she looks back and she knows that I'm the same bald bloke with the same beard in the same black car on the same street at the same time as yesterday. Except today I have on a red balaclava just to let her know that I'm not monotonous. Dennis played tennis, Josh played squash, Brett Small played netball, Pam swam, Rolf played golf, Tim did gym, Clint had a sprint. But while everyone else was doing games, Dex Merriment made his way to the science block. You fill up my senses like a night at Notts Forest, like a meat mountain in Swindon, like a really bad sprain, like an eye full of petrol, like a mouthful of mustard. You fill up my senses, don't come near me again. He's a dark horse, isn't he?
Who's that?
Black Beauty.